Hello, this is Balori. Welcome to Journey Home with Balori. Today I am here as a fellow human trying to figure out this game of life. Over the last week, I was requested multiple times to share a little bit more about my personal transformation journey, my own healing journey. This is some guidance I received over the last 2 years, but I definitely had some resistance to it. However, I am going to try to do this. I have never been one to share details of my life and my inner workings. I am an introvert, although most people think I am an extrovert because I tend to talk a lot. But generally, what they don't realize is the topic we're talking about is generally not me. So, whether you call it my personality, whether it's experiences that I had growing up, or just as an adult, I just never have been one to really openly discuss personal details, unless it's someone who I really trust or think will understand and be able to help me through whatever it is that I'm working on. To the extent that my family doesn't even know a lot of what I'm about to share, which they will find out with you. So this is actually one of the reasons why I've resisted sharing so many of the details of my life. I want to just say, whatever I share at this point about my journey, it's my perspective of different situations, different experiences that I've had. There have been other people that have been involved in those situations at some point, probably, or have somehow influenced that situation. So I want you to all keep that in mind, that this is my version of the story. Now, the other parties will have their own version of the story, and I get that. So what I do ask is please respect that this is my experience of these. If you can add some color to the other person's perspective that you might have because you had similar experiences, I appreciate it, but please do keep in mind that this is my space. So if I do see different comments that are negative, I will delete them and I will potentially block you if you are a repeat offender. Because this is a space that I am opening up and I'm being vulnerable with all of you because I think it will be helpful. My experiences will be helpful, and what I have learned will be helpful for all of you. And if you are feeling triggered by anything that I say, or you don't agree, you don't have to stay, you don't have to listen to the rest of it, you can leave. And I ask that you do leave for your own sake if you are getting triggered. And at a later date, if you feel like, what I'm saying now is resonating, or what I say at whatever point you think of it, if it resonates with you at that point, the door is always open. You are welcome to come back. But for now, for your own sake and for mine, if you are getting triggered by anything that I share, please stop listening. Unsubscribe. I will not mind. Because going forward, unless you are on a very specific journey, the information I will share maybe will not make sense to you. And that's fine. It doesn't have to. There's so many other creators for you to go follow and get yourself entertained. But this work in terms of transformation and healing, I take it very seriously. And it's it takes you to some very dark places, and it's a very lonely journey. And so I am creating this and I am sharing this at this point so that other people who are going through a similar experience are no longer feeling alone and they can find their tribe. So please respect the space. Please respect the others that are in this space. Please respect yourself. Again, if this is too triggering for you, please leave. If you resonate, if you feel like you need some more support in your own personal journey, I'm going to leave my link to my website in the description. It's also on my profile, so you can go in there and book a call with me, and we can definitely have a conversation about what you're going through. So, as my luck would have it, it turns out that the video stopped recording. So, unfortunately, you won't be seeing my face, but I think the message is what it is. So, please bear with me. So, for those of you who are sticking around, thank you so much. This is going to be a long one, so hang tight. Grab your tea, grab your coffee. So, what I'm going to hit on is the first thing I'm going to talk about is a couple of things in terms of resistance that I've seen in my journey in sharing my story with everyone. And it is something that's very common that will come up in coaching sessions that I have. The next thing is, what are the positive changes I've experienced going through my own spiritual transformational healing journey? And the third thing is, what are some of those very unexpected changes that not a lot of people really talk about once you go through a transformation and once you really start healing? How does your life change? So, if you want to know all of this, stick around. So much to share with you and so much more to come. So what I first want to share, and I already mentioned some of this, is why am I doing this now, and also why have I, even though I knew this was a big part of my journey, is my sharing my own experiences to help others, why have I resisted it for 2 years? Once you get into this healing journey and spiritual journey, what you understand is the experiences that you have, the intuition, the guidance, the decisions you make, these are all for you. It's not for your parents, it's not for your boss, it's not for your best friend, it's not for your spouse. The message was received by you because you are the one who needs to do something about it. And even though I know that, when you are someone who is compassionate and empathetic, and you tend to pick up on energies and feelings of people around you, and you're trying to consider them, it does tend to slow you down in a way. The other thing is that I have never really had a one-on-one guide who, or a teacher who I can talk to, who will tell me, this is what you'll experience and this is how you deal with it, and you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. The fact is that there is no one right way or wrong way to do it. It's a journey. It's a journey that each of us has to go through on our own. Sure, there's people who can come along on the way who can help you through certain things. They can teach you certain methods. But at the end of the day, the lessons, the messages, they're for you. And sometimes the work that I do, it's not even just in this lifetime, it's things that are impacting them from a different lifetime altogether. And so just keep that in mind. Am I perfect? Do I have it all figured out? No, that's another reason why I think I question myself a lot of, do I really want to lead someone down this path? I don't even know. People are looking for their six-figure income. They're looking for a loving relationship. They're looking for this. They're looking for that. I did leave a really well-paid job to go to an almost zero income to start over again. So no, I'm not making as much as I was, but I can tell you that comes with building resilience, building character, building trust and faith in yourself, in the higher being, and really connecting to yourself and really truly understanding your purpose to a level where no matter how hard it gets, you still show up. And when it gets harder, you show up stronger. You will also start to feel a sense of freedom. You won't really give into fear as easily. And this is how I do know that I am going in the right direction and doing the right thing is my energy. This doesn't mean that I don't get sad. I do get sad. I know how to get out of it faster. The reason I waited and I procrastinated for 4 days on making this video is because after the eclipse last week, I really felt it and it really brought me down. And after specific conversations, I found myself in a state of fear again. And when you find yourself in a place of depression, it's because you're living in the past. And when you find yourself in a place of anxiety, it's because you're living in the future. And in February and March, I was in a different world. I was in this weird bubble. I don't even know how to explain it. I was just happy. I was bouncing around. I was still getting things done. I was still working. I wasn't just laying around doing nothing. But I was living in the now. I wasn't worried about what happened in the past. I wasn't worried about what's coming up in the future. I was just enjoying every moment as it was coming. How do I know that I'm starting to actually make a difference and the work that I'm doing is working? Is when I notice these things faster, I can shift my energy faster. I have practices now that, well, sometimes I'm just compassionate with myself and I'm like, look, I just need time. I don't want to talk to anyone. My phone is going to be on do not disturb. I'm not going to answer the phone. I just need silence, or I just need to listen to music, or I just need to read a book or whatever. And if that's what I need, that's what I need. And that's part of, the self-love practices that I've learned. And so it's so critical because as you go into this journey and, especially if you're on the spiritual journey, it can be very isolating. And I'll talk about this more if you want to know more about this, but I think the importance of the isolation, I think for me, in and out, the isolation has been on and off for about like 6 years now. And the importance of that is especially like the louder the voices are in your environment, I think the more isolated you get. And this is my assumption. I've noticed that there are people who are spiritual who don't necessarily go into a full-on isolation, but they're generally a little bit stronger in terms of hearing their own intuition and their own inner guidance. For me, the people around me were much louder, whether that was in a professional environment or a personal environment. I always gave more priority to what other people were saying because for some reason I thought they knew more than I did, which, I mean, that's also relative, right? You can know more about a specific subject, maybe science, maybe math, maybe computers. You can know more about spirituality, or you can know more about your individual self. And so it's so common in our current society where we get disconnected from who we are as an individual, what we think, what matters to us, what's important to us, what's right for us. What's right for my sisters is not right for me necessarily. What was right for my parents, for them to survive, for them to thrive, is not necessarily right for me 30, 40 years later. And so keep in mind, it's all contextual. The environment that we have grown up in has shifted. Depending on what generation you're from, you have seen multiple changes in your life, and it's all about survival of the fittest, right? So the more you learn to connect to yourself, and this is why I really love the work that I do and it's so important, is the more that you can connect to yourself and the more that you can stay grounded in that self. No matter what is happening around you, you can always find different strengths that you have that will allow you to survive. But if you are in a place where every 2 seconds you're shifting left and right because, oh gosh, this happened in the world and this is the direction the world is taking, you give that power away from yourself and you lean into this fear mongering mode where you'll do anything without actually stopping and thinking, like, does that actually make sense? I can go on about this, and one of the things too is you'll start to notice that in everything that bad that happens, you start to identify the good that happens from it too. There's the saying, rejection is God's protection, and that is so true. So true. There have been so many times that I have now, and I notice this every day, and I notice it faster and faster every time. And I'm so grateful for it that every time there's a rejection, every time someone leaves your life, every time you lose a job, it's creating a gap. It's creating a space for you to receive something new. The other thing is, I would say, I think my relationship with my parents is in the best place that it has ever been. It's very difficult for me to live across the country from them because they do mean so much to me and I know it hurts them. But what I will say is the more that I have learned to connect with myself, although initially it was very jarring for them, because they didn't know about what was going on with me, and they do love me and they do care. So it was kind of like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? Like, we don't understand this. And I moved into a world that they don't understand. And so fear, when you don't understand something and you can't really comprehend it, it is scary. And so not only was it scary for me, for them to not know also, it was even more scary. And I was trying to figure out what was happening to myself, so I didn't have the words to share with them or to anyone. And so the only thing I could do is shut it down and internalize it and try to piece it together. So yes, so as I healed myself, I noticed I didn't really have to do anything separate for them. Just how I am with them is different. Initially it was jarring, but again, at the end, if someone is supposed to be in your life, if a situation is supposed to be in your life, even after a short gap, years and years of a gap, you will find your way back to each other. I've seen this with friends, and I've seen this with my family as well. And I want to add a quick note here that each time I had to make a big decision, I somehow got a guidance, and I started listening to that guidance. So just in time, right before the market went down, I for some reason I just knew that I need to take my money out of the market and invest in a property. And so same thing, right before I bought this house, I was actually trying to close a different house. For whatever reason, initially it felt right. And then along the way, within a couple of weeks, it didn't feel right anymore. And I pulled my offer off the table. And I ended up in a house that's 2 times the size and less than half the price. And the other thing is, if I had not taken the money out of the market in the appropriate time and I had not gotten my mortgage approved, I would have gotten a much higher rate afterwards. I wouldn't have my paperwork ready to have submitted right away. And I remember I actually had a dream where the house that I was moving into was going to be next to two bodies of water and a park. And that's exactly what it was. And initially I was very confused, but when I actually closed on the home that I did, it matched exactly. And so These are the types of things that you start to notice where it might not be the monetary I'm making, however much I was making before, but you will start noticing that you get these guidances, and the more you follow it, the more you'll get them. We make certain decisions, we might have certain ideas of where we should be, but there's also something about divine timing. So it's not just about you being ready and you learning what you need to. There's other people who need to be put in place. They need to go through their lessons. There are situations, events that need to happen that come together like a puzzle. You're just one small piece of a bigger puzzle. You know, as you shift like this and you go through your transformation, you will start to notice people will fall away, jobs will fall away, and just your old life will, for some reason, not make sense anymore. And that's normal. I just want you to know that is normal. It's hard, it's jarring, especially if you have no one else who's gone through this journey around you to tell you that it's normal. I will tell you it is normal. I've experienced it personally. I have clients who have experienced it. I have friends who have experienced it. I can't tell you the number of friends. I'm on to like two hands counting now of how many friends I have who have left their corporate jobs after me. I had nothing to do with it. They, on their own free will, decided it's time to leave without a backup plan. And, you know, COVID played a big part of this. People realized that life is about more than the grind. And so there's more and more people realizing it, but there still is that fear factor and that comfort factor of this is all I knew my whole life. I don't know how to be otherwise. What I've learned is you start to live in flow. And what that means is I was always someone who was very structured in terms of here's the plan, this is our end goal, this is how we're going to get there. Let's break it down into all the different tasks. We need to do this by this day, this by that day, this by the next day. The way I like to explain this is, let's say if I'm looking at the circle and what you know is within the circle, right? And so if I am trying to build something within this circle, it's very limited based on what I know. Now, if I just open that up and I say there's like a little bit of a gap, and anything outside of my hands is the unknown, right? So this is all known, this is all I can work with. Now, as soon as I open this up, what happens is technically I have now removed that barrier completely. So the space that I have to work with is now not just what's inside my hand, but everything that I do not know. And what that is you're working with your energy, and you are basically making sure you can open up all your chakras. You're opening up your crown, you're opening up your third eye, you're opening up your heart space. So you know, you can welcome love, you can welcome guidance, you can welcome knowledge. And the more you can welcome in and receive that, the more expansive you become, the more unlimited you become, and the more unlimited your opportunities become. So this is a great example of how this works. Me being me, I tried, let me go back and create some goals for my business and for 2024, and we're going to do this. And so I started, and I had, I need to make this much in revenue, and I needed this many clients, and I need to get, this many speaking gigs, and I need to do da 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 da. I had all of that written out. I started working on it, but it was a very slow progress. I was, doing it. Yeah, okay, not too jazzed about it. And one day in January, I was listening to, I think, a podcast. And this gentleman who I was listening to, he said something, I don't even remember. I think he was talking about social media, because I know nothing about social media. I don't really like sharing my business. So I've had my own resistance to social media. So I'm learning how to share. Anyway, so he was talking about social media and how do you grow your social media and whatnot. And he said something that triggered something in me. And I literally, just from listening to somebody else's podcast, I got an idea. I did a 21-day Discover You challenge. For those of you who missed the challenge, I will link the playlist for you if you want to go back and look at it. Within about half an hour, I had all of these different things that I wrote out. How am I going to market it? What's the idea? How am I going to do it? How does it connect to my overall offering? And within 2 weeks, I had it up. I made updates to my website. I made updates to my backend platforms. I made updates to my payment systems, my bookkeeping. I made updates to my social media. I did the whole thing. I got it done. I did the editing. I did all the marketing content. And here I was just sitting on it for forever. And I could have done this months ago, but it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't time. Maybe I wasn't ready. I don't know what it was. But what I will say is when I went back after, and I just focused on the idea. I just focused on, this is what I want to provide. This is how I'm going to do it. This is going to be the structure. I maybe initially thought of, these are some of the goals that I have for this. But once I got into it, my main focus was, this is the content I'm going to create. This is the value that I want to add for my viewers. And once I did that, when I went back afterwards, first of all, I had some experiences that I was not even expecting. It was going to be a thing. That was an outcome of doing the challenge. And the second thing is, when I actually went back and I looked at what I accomplished and what I finished in those 21 days and the 2 weeks that I had to prepare for it, I had made movement on every single one of my goals within the span of 5 weeks. Within the span of 5 weeks, I made all of this progress on every single one of my goals. And I got clarity in the ones that I was not clear on. I got clarity on exactly how I was going to proceed with those areas as well. And so when you work in flow, you can have a target. I'm not saying you should never not work with the target. Sometimes you might have to if you're just very much in this kind of haze and you're really in a place where you're just taking one foot in front of the other. But I had some very vague goals in mind. I knew I was going to make progress in it somehow, but I didn't know the how. And by just staying open and in that moment, because I had tuned in and I heard it right away when this guy was talking, and I said, okay, I'm done with you, turning this off, switching myself back on, I immediately realigned with my own messaging and I took action on it. So one of the things is you can tune into your intuition. We all have it. But if you start ignoring it enough, it doesn't come to you anymore. But the more you learn to tune into that, the more when you start reintegrating yourself out into the world after that isolation phase of your spiritual journey, what you'll notice is the first time you go out, you'll start to notice you're kind of going back to your old ways and, oh, so-and-so said this, so-and-so that said that, fear mongering, blah, blah, blah. You'll kind of lean back into it. You'll go back into isolation. When you come back out, the more you practice to listen to your own inner guidance, no matter who you're listening to or who you're getting your information from, no matter how successful they are, what you'll start to realize is, this is right for me. This is not right for me. So you learn how to navigate with your own flow. And so that is the power of living in flow. And when you are someone who is going through this transformation, one, you're changing. So your brain chemicals are changing. People do change their DNA. And there are studies of this. People will change their DNA as they go through healing and as they go through a transformation journey. So you are completely shifting not just who you are outside, but your inside is completely transforming. And I'll definitely share more on this later, but you can see your body shape will change, your eye color can start changing. You can even start to grow sensitivity to different types of food. For example, I really can't eat meat that much anymore. It hurts my stomach, it doesn't feel good. And when I stop eating meat, it actually opens up my intuition more. And so when that happens, your old life can get misaligned, and the way you used to function before is no longer the way you function now. There's a specific energy, a specific pattern that is coming up, and you recognize that pattern and you say, no, I don't like the outcome of this pattern. Every time I've done this in the past, this is how I reacted, this is how I was, and I didn't really like that. So what you're going to do is now you're going to shift that pattern. And so as you go through a transformation journey, you start to learn how to shift those patterns faster and faster and faster. You notice that you change your pattern, you notice that you change your pattern. So what you'll notice is you just get better at it. And so this is getting really long. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to my journey. Again, if you are going through your own spiritual journey, hang in there. I promise it gets better. I don't know what the end looks like yet. But I can tell you it's definitely better from where I was 3 months ago. It's better from where I was a year ago, 3 years ago, 6 years ago, before I even started the journey. So if you need some additional guidance on your journey, please leave a comment, let others support you. If you would like to talk more one-on-one because you're not in a place where you want to share publicly, I totally understand. My my website is going to be in the description, and also I will leave a comment with my information for you to contact me. And good luck. I'll see you here again soon